Guys, it's Houston Sports Talk back into the video day, and today I'm going to be doing my 2024-25 NBA season standing predictions. I'm going to make another video making predictions for everything, not just standings, but, the awards like MVP. You have MVP, you have all the other awards that, come up in the awards for the NBA, and then obviously I'll go over the playoffs and my finals prediction. But in this video, I'm just kind of focusing on my standings prediction. So 15 through 1 in the Eastern Conference, 15 through 1 in the Western Conference. Let's get it going. I want to start with the Eastern Conference, and I'm going to go through 15 to 1 and go over my predictions and my kind of thought process of my predictions. So starting off with 15, worst team in the Eastern Conference, for me, it has to be the Brooklyn Nets. I think the Brooklyn Nets have some nice players on their team. I like Cam Thomas. I like Cam Johnson as well. Nick Claxton's a very solid center. Dorian Finney-Smith. You got Ben Simmons. If Ben Simmons could go back to the old self, maybe the Nets are not the worst team in the Eastern Conference. But here's the problem: Ben can go back to what he was as a superstar in Philadelphia, and you still have to worry about him staying healthy. So can Ben stay healthy? You asked the one question of, can Ben get back to what he was in Philadelphia? We see him now, and he still does some good things. Like, he's still a really good facilitator, and he's still a really good defender, and still a really good rebounder. He's still all of those things, but he's not a good scorer. Even though in Philadelphia we knew he wasn't a good three-point shooter, he wasn't a very good jump shooter. He couldn't get going in the mid-range that often, and he could never hit threes. That was obvious in Philadelphia, but he could score. He could get to the free throw line, he can drive to the basket, and he was really good at that, but he has lost that in Brooklyn. Even if he could get that back in Brooklyn, you also have to wonder, can he stay healthy? That's a big question for Ben Simmons. I look at some of the players in Brooklyn, I look at really only 7 players of the team that I really like. You have Schroeder, you have Cam Thomas, you have Cam Johnson, you have Bojan, you have Nick Claxton, you have Dorian Finney-Smith, and I look at a couple players, I don't know if halfway through the season they're still on the team, and that's looking at guys like Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson, maybe even Ben Simmons, are those guys, Dennis Schroeder, another guy, are those guys that are going to for sure be in Brooklyn as the season ends. There are only a couple guys on this Brooklyn team that I think I can guarantee will still be on the roster as the season ends, and I think that's Cam Thomas, and it's Nick Claxton. I think those are the only 2 guys that I can guarantee are still on their roster as the season ends. Out of the 7 main guys that I think are the best players in the Nets. So, and with some teams improving in the East, I think Brooklyn is going to be pretty bad this year. They already started to show last year that they were bad. Then they lose Mikal Bridges. They lose some other pieces. I think it's going to get worse for Brooklyn. At 14, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Another situation. Look, Atlanta has some players I like. Obviously, I love Trae Young. He's a great player, great facilitator, great three-point shooter. I really love Jalen Johnson, but can he stay healthy? I like some of the centers they have in Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu. Bogdanovich is a amazing scorer off the bench to have. But outside of that, this Hawks team, to me, doesn't really have that much. Losing DeJounte Murray hurts, of course. They've lost some other pieces throughout the offseason. I got them as the 14th seed in the Eastern Conference. Next, I have at 13 the Washington Wizards. The Wizards did add some nice pieces, like bringing in Malcolm Brogdon, but you also lose some pieces, trading away Deni Avdija. I think for the Wizards, it's a little bit better than it was last year, but it's not much. That's why I have them at the 13 seed. At the 12 seed, I got the Hornets. I think the Hornets, they did bring in some nice pieces this year. Drafting Salon in the first round. I think he could be a terrific player for them. I really like the addition from Dallas of Josh Green. Some other nice additions. Hopefully you get LaMelo Ball and Mark Williams healthy. But that's the thing for me. The Hornets can never stay healthy. LaMelo and Mark Williams have been severely injured. Just look at the last couple years. Those are 2 guys who have not been able to stay healthy. Now it's a full season without PJ Washington, who was a big part of their team. They had him for at least half of the year last year before they traded him to Dallas. And so I think Charlotte's improved compared to what they were last year. I hope and I think LaMelo Ball stays more healthy than he was last year, but I still expect injuries for him, unfortunately, and the same thing for their terrific center, Mark Williams. I look at another very fantastic center on their roster, Nick Richards. I don't know how long he's there. That's a trade piece. I think there are some terrific players in this roster, but how long are they staying? I look at guys like Grant Williams, and I look at Nick Richards, and I don't know how long they're truly going to be in Charlotte. At 11, I got the Detroit Pistons. This might be a surprise, a jump for the Detroit Pistons going from 15 to 11, but I like what the Pistons did this offseason, and it really reminds me of what the Houston Rockets did a couple years ago, or sorry, not a couple years ago, last year. Last year, we saw the Rockets, the 22-60 team, a team that was the worst team in basketball. They were absolutely terrible. And I'm a Rockets fan, by the way, so they're the 15th seed. What happens? They hire a head coach. They focus on bringing in pieces, like veteran pieces that will help their team and make them a better organization. Mix those veterans with the young players, with a veteran head coach now in the organization, and or not a veteran head coach, but a winning head coach in the organization, and Ime Udoka. And what happens? They become a winning basketball team. They jump from the 15th seed to the 11th seed, a 19-win improvement basketball team last year, just short of being in the play-in after being the worst team in basketball. And having a 41-41 record last year was the Houston Rockets, and that's what I could see being a year type. The type of year for Detroit. I don't see them getting to a 500 record of 41-41, but I could see them reaching in the area of potentially maybe 32 to 37 wins, possibly, and being close to 500. So whether it's 32-50 or it's 37-45, which we saw last year, you can win 35 games and still be right outside of the play-in game. So the Pistons added in pieces this year. You add in a veteran head coach like JB Bickerstaff, who knows how to coach young players. You add in a veteran like Tobias Harris, Tobias Harris gets hate, but he was playing good, averaging almost 20 points per game in Philadelphia, playing next to superstars like Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Imagine how good he's going to be in Detroit now that he's the second best player next to Cade Cunningham. It's going to be completely different for Tobias Harris compared to what it was in Philadelphia. So you add in a piece like Tobias Harris. You bring back Simone Fontecchio, who I think was a fantastic player for Detroit last year. You re-sign him. You trade for Tim Hardaway Jr. You sign Malik Beasley. So adding in shooters was a big thing. You draft Ron Holland in the draft, adding in draft talent, and hopefully your younger players continue to grow. So I think this will be a growing season for the Pistons. I don't think they're at the area of playoffs or play-in yet. I think they're also a team who could be a buyer at the trade deadline potentially. But I think the year for the Detroit Pistons will be in the 2025-26 season. I think that's when we see them become a play-in or playoff team. Really start to excel as a basketball team. But I think this is the year where we start to see them go into the right direction, but fall just short of the play-in. At 10, I got the Toronto Raptors. I really like the Raptors. They have a solid team. I mean, you got RJ Barrett, you got Emmanuel Quickley, you have Kelly Olynyk. There's so many decent. Scotty Barnes, of course, one guy failed to mention. I think as Scotty Barnes, you go into a new season with Scotty Barnes, first full season without Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby. I think he just takes off, and you have the new pieces around him that you had, that you got in those trades with RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, and Bruce Brown as well. And I think this is going to be a nice team. I don't think they're going to be too scary, but I think they're going to be good enough to be in the play-in. At 9, I'm going ahead, and at 9, I'm going with the Indiana Pacers. I like the Pacers. I really do. I love Halliburton. I love their team. They move the ball terrific. I've never seen a basketball team move the basketball so fast and so quickly like they do. But I think there's some teams in the Eastern Conference this year that have just improved. I look at some certain teams like the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat, and I look at I look at some other teams this year, and I think there's so many teams in the Eastern Conference that have improved this year and will be better, and I think that kind of hurts a team like the Pacers, who weren't that great before the season before, but I still think they're good enough to be in the play-in, but I think the East has gotten a little bit tougher than it was before. At the 8th seed, though, I am going with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers, another team I think are going to be hurt by some teams being better. And I like the Cavs, but I think they're a good team as well. I just have them fallen a little bit compared to where they were at before, but I think they're a good roster. They have a good roster as well. At 7, I have the Orlando Magic. I like the Magic too. I think they're a good team, good enough to be in the play-in. I have them falling compared to where they were a little bit last year. Last year at the 5 seed, I got them going to the 7 this year. But still, it's good enough to potentially be in the playoffs. Then at the 6th seed this year, I'm going with the Chicago Bulls. I really like the Chicago Bulls. I think the Chicago Bulls, if they stay healthy, if they keep their group, they'll be a successful team. I think this is a prediction that could go downhill for me if they start to have injuries or if they start to trade some pieces, but Zach LaVine's healthy. I think that's big for this team. Lonzo Ball's healthy. I think that's also big for this team. You trade for Josh Giddey. You add in some other pieces elsewhere. Really, all they lost was DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso. What do? You get Lonzo and Zach LaVine back. You add in Josh Giddey. They added in multiple other pieces. You have guys who were so successful last season stepping up, like Ayo Dosunmu and Kobe White. Those two guys were terrific last year. Vucevic is still on the team. He's going to be great for their team. You add in Jalen Smith as the new backup center. Really love him from Indiana. You have Patrick Williams healthy, who was not healthy last year. You draft Matas Bazulis in the first round, who I think will be a very nice player. You sign Talen Horton-Tucker. Torrey Craig still on the team. This is a very nice, solid roster. But if this is a conditional prediction for me. If they have to all stay on the team and stay healthy for them to be a top 6 team. They're in the beginning of the play-in if they start to have injuries, but healthy, the Chicago Bulls will be a top 6 team in the Eastern Conference. At 5, I had the Miami Heat. I think the Heat take a jump this year compared to where they were at last year. I think Bam and Jimmy stay more healthy. You have Terry Rozier for a full season with Tyler Hero and the whole squad. I really love the draft pick of Khalil Ware. I think he's going to be a terrific player too. So I got the Miami Heat being as the 5 seed. And then at the 4 seed, I'm giving it to the Philadelphia 76ers. The health of Joel Embiid and Paul George concerns me, but I think they still, with the trio Paul George and Tyrese and Joel Embiid, I still think they managed to be a top 4 seed, but I got them at 4. At 3, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. Love Giannis and Dame. I think a second year for these two guys will be better than their first year, but I don't have them as a top 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. And then at 2, this might surprise some people, but I'm going with the Boston Celtics at 2. I love the Celtics. They're a great team. We're going to see who I have as the 1 seed going up against them tonight, but I don't know how much we will see Porzingis this season. Right now, it doesn't look like he'll be back until December or January, and it could get worse for them. Porzingis was a really big part of their regular season, and they can still be a really good team without him in the regular season, but I don't know if I see them being over a healthy New York Knicks team without Porzingis. Now, I think what really matters is in a postseason matchup. Like in a postseason matchup, if the Celtics have Porzingis and they're all healthy, and they're going up against the Knicks, even if the Knicks are the 1 seed, if the Celtics are healthy and have Porzingis, I think the Celtics are going to probably take down the Knicks in a head-to-head series, probably, most likely. But in the regular season, knowing Porzingis probably won't play most of it, I don't think he'll play half of the regular season. I honestly think that the Celtics will end up being the 2 seed, and the Knicks will get that number 1 seed. I'm going to go over the West a little bit quicker. At the 15th seed, I got the Jazz. I mean, I think there's a lot of great teams in the Western Conference. I think, whoever ends up, even the 15 seed is not a bad team. But honestly, the Jazz are, in my opinion, are really the only team that I think has no shot to get in the play. And I think I look at all other 14 teams, and I think they have a shot. At 14, this might upset some people, but I got the Grizzlies. I love Ja Morant. I think he's a great player. I think you get more healthy by having Ja back this year. You have Marcus Smart, Brandon Clark healthy, guys like that. You add in Zach Edey. But for me, it's not about their team. It's more about how tough the rest of the Western Conference is. I can see a couple other teams being ahead of them. But, I don't know. I see another bad year for the Grizzlies, but honestly, at the same time, I could see them being a 13, a 12, or 11 seed as well. At 13, I got the Blazers. I'm really digging the Blazers this year. I think they're gonna be another bad team that takes a jump. I don't think they're gonna be in the play-in, but they have a bunch of nice young guards. Anthony Simons. You have Sharp. You have Scoot Henderson. You have a terrific group of centers with Robert Williams healthy now. Donovan Clingan is the guy you drafted. DeAndre Ayton in Portland as well. Jeremy Grant's on the roster. You trade for Denny Avdia. It's a solid roster. It really is. It's not good enough to be a playing team, but I think this Blazers team is definitely improved compared to last year. At 12, I got the Clippers. I think the Clippers, you're going to have Kawhi for a little bit of the season. I think it still makes them a solid team. I think Harden steps up big with Kawhi injured and Paul George gone from the team. But I think the Clippers are not a good team. I look at teams like the Blazers and the Grizzlies. Clippers could be worse than those teams. It also, I could see in a way where the Clippers finishes the 14th seed and, you see the Grizzlies at 13 and the Blazers at 12. But, I think with Harden, if he stays healthy and you have Kawhi for at least 30 to 40 games this year, I think they still are able to get some wins. I think they win more than half of their games with Kawhi Leonard. And James Harden's still a really good player. They have some solid players around him, but they're still a bottom 5 team in the Western Conference to me. 11, I'm going with the San Antonio Spurs. I like the addition of Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes. I think those two guys will mix well with Wembanyama, but outside of that, I don't see them making it into the play-in. I think they're just short. At 10, I have the Golden State Warriors. I think the Warriors are going to be solid this year. I think they're going to be in the play-in, but I don't see much more for the Warriors besides playing. Curry's great. I think they have a lot of depth. I think they're filled with probably the most depth in the NBA. You probably have 11, 12 guys on their rotation that could be getting minutes, but there's not really a second star next to Curry, which makes it hard to be successful. They can have a good regular season with Steph and their deep rotation, but it's not going to do them too much when you get to the play-in in the playoffs. At 9, I'm going with the Los Angeles Lakers. I love LeBron and AD. I like the addition of JJ Redick, but I still think they're staying in the play-in level. At 8, I have the Houston Rockets, non-biased. The Rockets worked terrific last year at 41-41, making a 19-win improvement jump. What do they do this year? You bring in Steven Adams. You get Tari Eason healthy. You draft Reed Shepherd. Your young guys are starting to grow more than they were before. That means the Rockets are going to take a bigger jump this year. I have them going from the 11 to the 8 seed. At 7, I have the Pelicans. I really love the Pelicans this year. You add in DeJounte Murray to be the new floor general for this New Orleans Pelicans teams. What that does is I think it's going to open the floor a little bit more for CJ McCollum. It's going to give him more chances to shoot the ball than he had before. I think the pick and roll between DeJounte and Zion might be very nice as well. I think the really only problem for this Pelicans team is not having a center. That's going to be the only thing that I think hurts them this year. At 6, I have the Denver Nuggets. I love the Nuggets. I love Jokic. I love Murray. But I think they're gonna really hurt. They're gonna really hurt without Kentavious Caldwell-Pope this year. He was big for their team. Jokic kicking the ball to him in the corner for threes. The impact he made defensively, him playing great basketball on both sides of the floor, they're going to miss that. And Christian Brown's a great player. Replacing him with Christian Brown will be solid, but he's no KCP. And you also lose Reggie Jackson, who was really good off the bench as the backup guard. That's going to hurt as well. Westbrook is a nice replacement, but at the same time, those losses hurt. Those are two guys who were a big part of their championship run. They're still a top 6 team in the West for me, which is still probably around 50 wins in the Western Conference. So they're still a really good team, just they're not a top 3 or top 4 team for me anymore. At 5, I have the Phoenix Suns. I think the Phoenix Suns finally figure it out and get to become a great team with the big 3 they have. And one of the reasons I'm so confident in the Suns is I love the addition they make with the head coach, Mike Budenholzer. I think they finally have the right head coach. You also add in a point guard in Tyus Jones. It's enough of trying to make Bradley Beal a point guard. Beal did a solid job considering he is not a point guard, but that is not what is right for this team. Adding in Tyus Jones, a real point guard with guys, superstars like Beal, Durant, and Booker is what is right for this team. I think the Suns take the right jump. They were the 7th seed last year, so it's not a huge jump. But I think with adding in Jones and Budenholzer, drafting a guy like Ryan Dunn, who's looked fantastic, I think the Suns are going to make a little bit of a jump. At 4, I got the Wolves. They're falling only 1 seed. I think losing Cat does hurt, but you add in Randall, you add in Dante DiVincenzo. I really love the draft picks of Terrence Shannon Jr. and also, Rob Dillingham. But some of the teams in the West I have at 1, 2, and 3, I just like more than Minnesota. Still a really good defensive team as well, too. At 3, I have the Dallas Mavericks. I love the firepower of the Dallas Mavericks with Luka and Kyrie. Everybody hating on Klay Thompson, please stop. Wait till the regular season. Klay Thompson, I think, will have a really good regular season. We have yet to see Klay Thompson on the floor with both Luka and Kyrie. He's played a game with Kyrie and he's played a game with Luka, but not both of them. I think more good open looks come for Klay Thompson when both Kyrie and Luka are on the floor, because that means you got to double team both of those guys. Nobody, you're not going to obviously you want to pay attention to Klay Thompson. He's a good shooter, but it's harder to pay attention to Klay Thompson when you have to double a Luka or even double Kyrie. And then you have 2 shooters in the corners or, on the key or, anywhere on the floor like Klay Thompson and PJ Washington. Either one is a threat. I mean, I think if you have a double team on Kyrie or Luka, good chance someone's going to get a bucket. Whether it's PJ Washington or Klay Thompson open for a 3, or it's Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively wide open in the paint to put an easy dunk in. So I think Dallas is even more dangerous now when you double team them, whether it's doubling Luka or it's doubling Kyrie, because if Luka's getting double teamed, someone's open. I doubt it's Kyrie that's open, but if it's not Kyrie, it's either Klay Thompson open for a jump shot, or it's PJ Washington open for a jump shot, 2 great shooters, or it's Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively, whoever's in at center, wide open, to get an easy 2. So doubling the tandem of Luka and Kyrie is way dangerous than it was before. I think Dallas is going to be really good. You also add in some pieces off the bench outside of Klay. They signed Najee Marshall for New Orleans, who I really like, good defensive player. You ended up trading for Quentin Grimes, another player, signed Spencer Dinwiddie. The bench is better now than I think it was last year, if you ask me. At 2, I have the Sacramento Kings. I just love the Sacramento Kings. Last year, they were a play-in team with the squad they had last year. In the 22-23 season, they were a top 3 seed with their team. Now you add in DeMar DeRozan. Sabonis is, at another different level with the way he plays basketball. You have Fox. I think Keegan Murray takes a big third-year jump. So with Keegan Murray, having him, adding in DeMar DeRozan, if Murray takes a jump and you have DeMar DeRozan coming in, Sabonis and Fox stay healthy, you get Kevin Huerter back healthy, Keon Ellis continues to develop, at the Kings at the 2 seed. And at number 1, I'm going with the Oklahoma City Thunder being the number 1 seed. I really love what OKC has this year. offensively and defensively. I think they're going to be a terrific team. That's it for my predictions for the Western Conference and Eastern Conference. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and peace out.